Alright, a little preamble to part 2 of our KJF with a UK twist video. My first note on this is during this battle, the league season changed over and the rank season changed over, and this was a custom game. And then my opponent was just gracious enough to play this game so that I could record some KJF footage for you folks out there. However, I will say as we lost focus on this game a little bit, we did make several mistakes, including a huge blunder by myself, which he thankfully ignored so that we could keep the video going. I also ran into some technical difficulties, and I think it's UK round 7, my microphone went out, so I had to go back and post dub from UK 7 to the end of this video of UK round 8, as I did not realize my mic was out during that time. And then the third video, I'm going to change formats, and we're going to try something a little bit different and see how the feedback goes with that. So, with no further ado, I apologize for the delay of getting this out, but here we go. So, I already did my combat move with Russia, but in any case, all I did was buy 6 infantry and artillery. He had 2 infantry sitting up here. Because of how I'm pulling this really quite thin, and I'll show you just how thin in just a second. I really needed to block here so that he could not do a tank blitz, so I took 3 infantry with 2 fighters. My fighters missed every single dice they rolled, but thankfully the infantry on my side hit and his did not. So, in any case, we do have Japan pressing right up against the door here, which is a little bit scary. We'll take out this side with UK next turn. So he really just has a 4 and 1. So we got 7 people coming in here plus fighters from UK next turn, so we'll be safe. And then we're going to turn the heat back up on Japan, especially as if he moves these other guys in. Then we're going to clear all of this out and start our blitz back through China and North Russia, and or depending on what dictates. So kind of hoping that he does move these guys in next turn or come in here, and then that way we can clear them out. We're going to start walking through this area pretty quickly here. So this battle right here, by the way, let's see if I get this screen here, is a pretty risky battle. Um, this is something I was going to say, in general with the Russians, this is what it comes out to be. I will leave close to 60% chance. It actually is a negative possible for him. Really, it's a kind of overall 50-50 split, so it's risky. Um, I don't think a lot of people are going to take that, but maybe he will. Who knows? Okay, so here we go. Germany has stepped down into Belarus here, and again, they're purchasing tanks. They're planning their timing with an infantry. The only thing that I'd say here is they did put 2 tanks here in Karelia, which will be a target worth me attacking, I believe, since I'm going to have the Russians going back this way. We're going to be leaving West Russia at this point, as he now has, enough units up here to push me off. So we're going to back off of West Russia. So these fighters are going to be free. We'll have a 1-person block so that he can't blitz through, which means Russia, is going to be safe at the after their turn for Germany's turn. So that means the fighters don't need to land in here, that I can bring them down here, because the other thing we got going on here is he's right at a timing where he's got enough ships, he could still make a move down here to 36, land all these 6 land units, and then try to take India the next turn. So kind of in a little bit of a precarious position there. So by bringing these fighters back and having all these fighters and everything going on here, and I'm going to go ahead and actually build a couple bombers and a sub in India. I will have enough uh, pressure that I can 1-2 punch the fleet, or I could even hit the land units if he lands them down here in Burma. I would think he'd probably land them more down into the other spaces here where they got a little more range. But in any case, we got to protect for that, so it means we don't get to build our factory for DEI quite yet. I did save enough to buy a couple infantry, which we'll start putting on Borneo to get ready to start transporting over, hopefully pretty soon here. We also got Africa that we got to watch out for and try and contest. So we're going to go for that. We're going to go try to kill that Corp 2 there before they start creating too much damage into Africa. So we're going to take the attack to Africa there. We also want to go ahead and clear out some of these Japan players. The unfortunate thing is because I did take my carrier down here and when we took the DEI is there's no real good way for me to get him back into range without being in range of his 6 fighters. And that may be worse than in 6 fighters after a carrier and 2 fighters. I don't know. Probably not, but nonetheless, I'm not going to risk it. So, besides, by landing him over here in India next, at the end of this turn, they'll be able to fly up to Moscow if I need them to. All right. Unfortunately, we did not have good luck down here in Africa. We actually had subpar results. That's how the dice goes sometimes. So he's got 1 tank living there. So we're going to have some damage control to do down here in Africa. We were able to take Kazakh at least. Um, but that was unfortunate, to say the least. Nonetheless, we'll keep those guys here, and we will prepare to see what Japan does. Okay, quick summary on a couple things that I didn't pick up on from before. One big note is I missed it last time, but Germany did attack West Russia, and the result of it, basically I lost 12 infantry and an AA, so that was 41 IPC. They lost 13 infantry, 2 artilleries, so another 47 IPC for them. 15 units to 13 units. I don't know the exact breakdown, but pretty much an even Steven break. But that shows why when I looked at the board, I'm like, where'd all my Russian units go? That's where they went. So good news is they're a little bit thinner on infantry as well. Bad news is they got a lot of tanks coming this way. So they're actually starting to prop up a pretty quick timing here. They're looking at a turn 7 timing right now if I don't get some help there. And even with some help, it may be a turn 8 timing that we're looking at. I'm hoping to maybe divert it longer, but I don't know. Meanwhile, Japan Navy, they moved from C-Zone 60 to C-Zone 62. So 2 big things that means is one, any threat to India is now off the board. They're not going to be coming down this way. Their Navy at some point is going to have to go out this direction. Second thing is I was been sitting here, I was wondering how am I going to get my fleet over to C-Zone 36 without letting him just take the Philippines or even Borneo, because if I did it before, I was going to come in here and he could trade the Philippines and not to even use a destroyer here just to prevent him from taking Borneo and my factory down here. So it was looking like a some trouble there. So the good news is this is going to allow me to move my fleet off the Philippines. At first, my thought was to go into 60 or 61 and try and push him on out of here altogether to clean this up so he can quit getting troops onto the mainland. However, the only way I'm going to help these guys out is by getting these fighters over to India this turn. So that means I can come down to 36, put up some destroyer blocks. I've got enough surface ships to cover the air and start shuttling fighters on in there at the same time. So that's going to be the other part of it. So meanwhile, he's going to be shuttling land troops over, which is going to be unfortunate. At some point, I do need to get them out of here because I was looking at this nicely going, oh, look at this. Last Japan units here. We can get some tanks blitzing through, pick up kill some off some of this Japanese income, but that's not going to be the case now. Oh, so I got ahead of myself there a little bit. So I am going ahead and buying an industry for the Philippines. Going to buy 3 subs and a destroyer. Japan still has a lot of income. They're still pumping out units in here, so I still need to be supplying some fleet protectors over for the U.S. I really don't want to use any more UK money on surface fleets and whatnot. I really want to get their industries up here and start pumping in the income and the units in this way. Come on. So this is the next one where I'm going to put an IC for the U.S. as well, so that I can keep having the U.S. pump in troops. We're going to have a mixed army down here, but you know, that's what I traded for getting these islands early. Try and pick up some income down here. Could strike that tank. Yeah, we're going to leave that alone for right now. No reason to risk the bomber. I got some people coming down for that. Notice I'm not going to go ahead and take Morocco. I'm actually going to come all the way down here into West Africa and drop my troops here. You know, that way anywhere along this coast I'll be able to come back and hit him, and then anything on this side I could hit him with the UK. So we should be able to finish up that tank at least. Alright, so we successfully took New Guinea down here. We also took Thailand, so that's going to be good, so we can start getting a little more income, start setting up another industry here, and going forward. We're going to bring the bomber on up here so we can help kind of threaten the Japanese fleet. Now, as far as these destroyer blocks, man, ideally I'd love to use the UK destroyer as a block, but with subs still on the board, I hate to have these 2 carriers and 4 fighters, you know, in the area for UK and have no way to detect the subs. So we're gonna have to use US blocks in these. So I'm gonna leave my transport unprotected again. He could do the 3 and sacrifice his plane, or you know, bring his carrier right in here. Actually, is what it would end up having to do, and I could then kill his carrier nice and easily. I don't think he's gonna want to lose a carrier over a transport, so I'm not gonna worry about that. I said I am gonna bring the air into range of Moscow. The other good news with these blocks going in, that means these subs can come in and be more relevant right away because he can't attack them because we'll have a destroyer block in there. And even this destroyer, I won't give him a target I don't need to give him, so we'll come down here. Again, I really don't suspect him to take the shot on the destroyer there. Oh yes, don't want to forget about these guys. Get these guys on down here to help take care of this German here. So just to kind of alert you to one other thing I'm always keeping an eye on as well, and it's going to largely depend on what the Germans do next turn. That determines what I'm going to do. But sitting here, I now have for round 6, a U.S. transport that could get to France, a UK transport that could get to Italy. So if he gets too focused on getting all his units out to the east, I could have 2 victory cities there, and then we got one other victory city here where I've got 2 U.S. transports in range of. So um, being another platinum level player, I'm really not expecting him to give me that kind of opportunity, but something to note. Plus, if the UK transport does come in here, he's not likely to then come back and drop in here where I could kill him. And actually, as I think about this, 2, 3, 4, so they can still get to Moscow. 1, 2, 3, 4. They could still help attack here in Shanghai if I need to do that for a victory city, because again, he's going to be able to move a number of ground units over there as well as air. I doubt he's going to allow that to happen, but you know, you never know what happens. Play the board. Okay, so for Russia, I had a number of options. I might be spreading myself too thin. I'm a little worried, but you know, I'm gonna go for it. Anyways, we bought 5 infantry that we'll be placing down, and we're gonna try and kill out some tanks. Hopefully, relatively efficiently. Got 3 infantry, 2 fighters going after that tank. Got an infantry artillery to try and take the Caucasus back. Down here, I'm not actually looking to take it. I've got 4 infantry and 3 tanks coming down here. What I'm looking for is just a 1-round hit and get back and hope he doesn't get very many hits, so that my 1 infantry and 8 planes coming back up are going to be able to wipe out the rest of them. That way I don't have to worry about losing as much or too much air force on that strike. May have been better to leave this off. I'm a little hesitant, but I'm already committed, so we will go. So I made a major faux pas. I'm going to message my opponent to see if he'd be willing to pretend at least. My fast clicking and whatnot, I forgot to leave my 1-man in West Russia, so he'd be easily be able to take control of this game and just blitz right through and kill Moscow. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to ask if he's willing to pretend I had a guy there and he wins it free the next turn. It'll be his choice. That's one of those blunders that you hate to do. In any case, the other bad news is both the infantry and artillery both got killed by this infantry down here, and so that's going to allow him to build right off the bat. So we may be in big trouble regardless of that goof there. Okay, back with UK6. So fortunately, some added bad news. Because we couldn't kill that infantry on Caucasus. Not only did that infantry live, it also means he built 4 units up on the front lines that I wasn't counting on. Previous turn, I was counting on being able to fly all 10 planes back in here into Moscow and be able to hold 1 more turn for Moscow. But at this point, because of those 5 extra men on the front line, that means we're not going to have odds. He's going to have 90 plus odds on taking Moscow. So at that high of chances, I'm more about just bailing out, which unfortunately isn't the greatest thing either. But we're gonna see where things go. Unfortunately, again, I do think doing the UK flip, which is always wanted to try it, but I get a feeling that's gonna be a failed experiment this time because now we gotta worry about at this timing about a sea lion attempt as well as he takes this over, and we've got no stopping him from building ships in Sea Zone 5. So we're gonna do something to protect there, as well as the next turn when he gets massive income to be able to defend from him getting that massive income. So we got to kind of plan a couple step process here. So we shall see what we can do here. In any case, the other complication that we have on the matter is we got to watch out from him being able to blitz to India. So we're going to need to move a UK man over, but with those Japanese artillery there, if we just moved one over, the artillery could potentially kill him. I could do two over and feel a little bit safer about it. But we're going to go ahead and just try to wipe them out with the UK Air Force as they're flying their way up the line here to the bailout point. Greeted by 3 infantry, 2 artillery, and complex to try and get us up and going here. Fortunately, I'm worrying that this might be a little bit too little too late. But here we go. I decided to use the UK to come take him out. Main reason is because his last build he didn't put any ground here in Germany. So that means when I take France with this transport, although I'll lose my transport, I will get France twice out of it due to the fact that he's got no ground units that can come back and take it back over. So we're going to use the US to go up there and take France. So we're going to go ahead and try and do this 1 infantry, 1 bomber at least to take him out, and then have the other US unit roaming around here. It's not going to be long till these tanks are coming through here anyway, so we're going to be in trouble there one way or the other. All right, that's what we're going to be doing. Oh, more bad news. So this tank hit twice, taking out both the infantry and the bomber. Of course, the bomber missed the first go round. At least he did the second time. All 7 of my planes hit on the first round, but of course both his artillery hit as well. So it was a very painful combat round, unfortunately. So we're going to use this as the bailing point. I can do 1, 2, 3, 4. So he can't just drop just transports because I could build carriers, and so have to build at least a carrier, limiting how many he can build. And need to put 1 in here. Unfortunately, this game is starting to feel like it's starting to slip. I think he might have the upper hand at this point. But give it a fight as best we can. All right, I'm just going to recap a very important sequence that happened that's creating a bit of a pivotal part of the game here. And that's just going back to when he had an infantry here in Caucasus and small Japan stack here in Kazakh, and I had 1 guy for UK down here in Persia. So I took 1 infantry, 1 artillery here. Maybe I should have done more. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have done not taking those 2 tanks up there. Whatever. But anyways, I was counting on taking that, and unfortunately, he took it and his infantry lived. And in hindsight now, I wish I hadn't strafed his little mini stack here. My intention was to have the 1 infantry and all the air hit afterwards and clear it out cleanly. Um, but that all kind of fell apart when that one guy left. That allowed him to build units here, allowed him to fly fighters in to land here, shoot his tanks across, and effectively stack here, as well as he smartly sent that one infantry down, killed my Persia infantry. So then when I went after those remaining two artillery, which I needed to kill so that he couldn't just retake Persia and send his tanks now, I lost two fighters killing those two artillery. So that sequence of events of not taking Caucasus turned out to be a very big deal, as it ultimately has led him to a turn earlier that he's going to end up taking Moscow. I mean, he had a pretty solid G8 timing, but he's definitely going to take it G7 now, so we're in the middle of our bailout there. All right, so down here, um, he did message me too, just kind of like me. He had a misclick. He accidentally had his transport go out here. I think we're going to be able to play around it. I can leave his transport alone, so I'm not going to take that out. I'm going to pretend that transport's over in 62. The only thing I may change is I won't be hitting his sub, but that's not going to make or break this whole game. So, all right. So for the U.S., what I'm looking at purchasing here is a couple subs, couple destroyers, and my IC to go in Thailand. For the combat move, I'm actually going to leave this one alone. I am going to come down here and take this tip because that could be a crucial landing spot for fighters later on stationed in Japan, so we need to go ahead and take care of that guy. Otherwise, I am going to go ahead and send him on a sacrifice to take France because he has no way of taking it back with any land units next turn, so that'll be worth 12 IPC there, so that one ship loss there's not that big a deal. All right, and that'll be it for the attack. So coming back into non-combat, we are going to go ahead and come up into C Zone 61. I did leave my bomber sitting here. Instead of, I thought about maybe doing a SBR, but I really need him for the next stage, which is going to be to try to push this Japan Navy out of 62, and I just didn't feel like risking him. I am going to put this destroyer up for an air risk at this point. I'm not against that at the moment. Going to bring these guys on back up here to start preparing for the German Navy that's going to be forming here real shortly, as well as if he sends a sub to kill the transport, I can take a shot there. So I did buy those two subs and a destroyer here because that's going to give me, again, he could take an air shot at my destroyers if he wants. I'm going to be using this UK destroyer to come on in here and block any direct attacks with anything else. So, depending what he decides to go there, but that should give me just enough to push him out of that, squeeze him out of that C Zone 62, I believe. And we're going to start working on our Atlantic because we're going to need some Atlantic guys over here real soon. Okay, obviously video time doesn't tell this, but I had to take a few days off in between here due to various circumstances. So just get back into the game. And I'll be honest, I don't like this any better than I thought I liked it when I finished up the last turn. So again, this whole blow up down here is making me lose this one turn earlier than I was hoping to, is creating a bit of a fiasco. The biggest thing of all that really kind of concerns me is I've just been crunching the numbers, and although he can't drop a full fleet and sea line me in round 8, if he really chooses to drop a couple carriers this turn, I've got 5 fighters that can hit it, so he has to be careful. So I'd have to take 2 carriers, but he doesn't need to spend any more money for taking Moscow. Potentially he could do that, and he's going to have all the money from taking Moscow plus Russia's little bank to drop a whole bunch of uh, transports in there, and he could do a sea line, and I'm not sure I could build it up quick enough if he decided to do that. It's a little bit of a risky play because on the flip side, he can just march straight down into India and Africa with his tanks blitzing through as well. So kind of in a bit of a press here either way we look at it. I'm not real thrilled with how things are looking, but we're gonna give it our best good old heave ho and see where we go. So purchases, I did go ahead and make sure I spend all my money so that he's not getting any free money out of it. Other thing, when I know I'm getting ready to lose, I really don't want to get more countries for Russia because then Germany's just gonna get credit for them. However, I also want to have an escape plan for my fighters to be able to land. So I am going to take this one country with a unit so that when it's UK's turn, I can move the fighters over if I so choose. And there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, threatening that sea zone where if he doesn't build this time, he'd have to build next time to try to do a sea lion. Or there are 1, 2, 3, 4 from Iceland and then coming on to London. Not really sure, but it does mean, otherwise if I don't take it, they won't be able to land, and I have to take them over this direction. Whereas staying on this side gives me opportunity where they could also come down here. So I will take the 1 unit that Germany will get the point for, but that is going to be all that I'm going to take. Second kind of thread of all this is I really can't stack Archangel here because he's got enough with these tanks that could come all the way through that he could crush whatever I put there. So I'm a little worried he puts enough there that I get stuck here and have to come back centrally rather than to the north, but we'll worry about that as that comes up. So that's going to be my only attack. I'm not going to try attacking anything else in here. We're just going to be pulling back and trying to make the Germans chase us up north away from the Americans and UK's building down here as much as possible. Decided to bring them here because if I choose to go here, I can still. If they cut that off, I can still come down this way and challenge any of these Japan armies coming up. I do want the fighters here again so that they can build Iceland and London if needed. That'll be it. Alright, so things are getting a little more ugly But in any case, so he did take Moscow as expected, obviously. He also made this move down towards India, Africa, which was to be expected. Um, at first, I thought I was going to be in pretty good shape, that I'd be able to put enough men here and fly a couple planes down here and protect it against 1, 2, 5, and 5. And then I realized these 5 bombers were sitting up here that unfortunately they too can reach India. And that's where my audio went out. So I'm going to do my best to try to narrate going forward here. There may be a little bit of ums as I try to wait for the video to do what I think it's doing. But as I was saying, it's going to be harder to defend India at this point than I was initially thinking. We are getting 12 infantry, going to start placing them down in the islands and defending India as best we can. You're going to see here, instead of going to C-Zone 36, because I am wanting to use my Navy to push them off 62, I decided to go to C-Zone 61 and grab some income temporarily away from Japan. I used 2 of my 3 transports that way, saved 1 transport for going back to India, and 1 transport stood on South Africa there. So there we go. Got our transports used up there, moving our Navy up, because again, like I said, it's important to get the Japan Navy off of C-Zone 62 in order to keep them from putting units onto the land. And again, you remember that C-Zone 60 was a deal that I wasn't going to kill his transport. So we're putting the destroyer there in. Up here, I got enough over to Iceland to prevent the sea lion. I wanted to summon in Vinkat to the battle in the southeast as well as they can reach that C-Zone 62 with those fighters. And we did have that South Africa transport that I'm going to have positioned in order to be able to pick up 2 infantry from DEI next time and bring over to C-Zone 36, as well as we'll have the India transport. All right, for the U.S. turn here, we did get the Japan Navy to move. We're going to see that they came up here. They have 2 empty transports, which I wasn't sure if that was a mistake or if that was correct. It does look like maybe it was correct because he has just enough land there still to defend the Japan mainland. Of note, he does have a lot of Air Force as well as his Navy still hanging around there, so this is not a done deal yet. The other thing, I'm thinking about the defense of India because I'm really trying to hold the southeast as much as possible. So you're going to see I'm not going to make any U.S. attacks against the Japan mainland, even though I got that tank and infantry there. As much as I'd like to do that, this is, again, preserving the southeast. This artillery, I kind of debated what to do with it for a while, whether to bring it on over or head south. Eventually I decided those fighters in Caucasus could take a shot at it and kill it there and then land, and then there's absolutely nothing in Africa. So I decided to not move them in there and save them from those guys. The last part is looking back in the Atlantic. He did use a sub to take out my transport, so I want to go ahead and start trading some fleet over here. A lot of times late KJF games lead to a big Atlantic battle and build up between Germany and the Allied fleets. So one of the things I got to worry about with that Japan fleet, if it was going to come around and join it, there's going to be an issue. The good news, again, they don't have infantry on the transport, so the Japan Navy is a little more innocuous at this point, at least. And wasn't really sure about that transport. My opponent did not message me that it was a mistake, so I went ahead and took it out. Again, this was a friendly, and we were trying to not kill each other's blunders. So combat over here. Gonna go ahead and do that. Take that sub out. He did kill one hit with his sub, so I took the destroyer out. That way his air couldn't hit it and the sub can submerge versus other sub. Here you're going to see we're pulling back into C-Zone 36, getting as much defense into India as we can. I did need to pull a couple destroyers back there as well, just because of his Japan bombers. We had to protect from that. The German Air Force can't reach him there, but we also kept enough Navy in range of C-Zone 62 and the other one, keep the Japan Navy out of there. Russian turn, again, we moved south just because I didn't want him to be able to put a factory there on the 2 producer, and also moving east up on the north just to keep moving, advancing that direction. You're going to see I made a mistake here, however, because I did mean to attack Archangel as well, and I forgot to do that. Like I said, this game unfortunately does get a little bit on the mistake-prone side. So, simple combat, just took undefended territories. And you're going to see the moment here when it dawns on me, whoops, because as I move them over there, moving my troops, and then all of a sudden, oh, look at those tanks right there. Those tanks are going to be able to blitz right on through and take them out. I ended up deciding to go ahead and move everything I could into, I think that's a Vinkai there, because his Germans are going to go before the UK, so those fighters are going to go down. So he's going to go there. I wanted to make him move as many German troops to the north as I could and away from the southeast. I did go ahead and blitz the tanks over, just hoping to create some havoc with the tanks. That way they could keep drawing the Germans more to the northeast, and again, just trying to get by time for the southeast buildup that we were working on. So, as you can see, the Germans did wipe out those UK tank fighters up there, as well as most of the Russian army, unfortunately. Again, knew it was going to happen because of my mistake again. But at this point, we're going to refocus what we can. Again, we're watching for the sea lion possibilities and watching where his bombers all go. And so, yeah, so there you can see the Invict guy. It was a very profitable battle for him. It was a more hurtful for me in that one. So, bought the transport, 11 infantry. Again, just working on building up our shuck down here because we now have 3 transports. That'll give us our 4th transport that we need to be able to maximize efficiency, pulling the troops off the islands. Again, we are going to start building a little bit up in the London area when we can, just to limit that sea lion possibility. And I'm sure I had more great knowledge back at the time I was doing this. Of course, there we do see that tank's there. We got my transport that possibly could go after him. We're trying to decide, do we use the UK to go over there to hit him, or do we use the US to go over there to hit him, or do we have the US from the East Coast come over to Africa? And we're going to see where we go with that. I was talking about how I want to make sure I prevent him from being able to come back into those sea zones. We did need to protect the transport build, so that's why you can see some protection coming back to the islands for that one transport we're building. And we're shuttling DEI infantry to India, trying to hold India as long as we can. I know it's not going to hold permanently, but we want to hold it for what we can. And ultimately, our long-term goal is to hold Thailand. If we can hold Thailand, then we'll be able to start expanding back out. And Again, I'm going through doing my counts of what I need to make sure I protect the transport coming into Borneo while still threatening the sea zone 60 and 62 as best we can. And so that's the end of this video, the end of round 8 US, UK, and we're going to switch formats here in a moment for the third video. Hopefully it won't take as long.